Hi, it's Paul from selfoutforlife.com, and in this video I'm going to cover 10 ways to help you tame coronavirus anxiety. Now, feeling anxious right now is perfectly normal. Why? Because there's a high degree of uncertainty. We have massive uncertainty at the moment. Also, there's a threat to becoming ill. Also, we feel our life is restricted at the moment. We can't do things that we normally can do, like going and visiting friends. We're spending a lot of time indoors. And also we feel helpless. We feel that we're unable to actually do much about it. And I'm hearing stories of people that are normally quite happy-go-lucky that are feeling very anxious right now. And for them, that's actually quite a new experience. Now, to help you get through this very difficult time, I've created a coronavirus checklist. This has a number of things that you can do to help you stay well, both mentally, emotionally, and physically. To grab the coronavirus checklist, go to selfoutforlife.com/coronavirus, or click the first link in the description below, or it will also be the first link in the show notes if you're listening to the podcast version. And besides the coronavirus checklist, you also get tips, advice, positive news stories, and a little bit of humour by email as well. So what's behind this coronavirus anxiety? Well, firstly, massive uncertainty. Can't plan very much at the moment because we just don't know what's going to happen next. Secondly, a real lack of control. We feel we have no control over this, or we believe that we have no control over this. The reality is we have more control than we think, and I'm going to cover this a bit later in this video. Then there's threats to people and things that are important to us. And then lastly, it's new. None of us have experienced this before. None of us have experienced a health pandemic before. So it's not like anything else. It's not like seasonal flu. It's not like a severe weather event. It's something that's new to all of us, and that also creates a lot of uncertainty. So I'm now going to cover 10 ways to help you tame coronavirus anxiety. So the first way is to limit news and social media time. So if anxiety around the coronavirus is really affecting you right now, if you're getting quite a few physical anxiety symptoms, then it's time to make a big news change. So this involves limiting checking the news to twice daily, maybe once in the morning and once in the evening. It also involves limiting your news sources to 2, so maybe a TV station and a news website. And then for each time you check the news, limiting that time to 5 minutes each. So 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening. Now, if something happens outside that time or you miss something, there will be friends and family that will tell you. I'm sure you will find out. The same goes for social media. At the moment, there's a lot of negative information on social media. There's friends that are basically expressing their fears about the coronavirus and are also posting information that may not be accurate. So limit time on social media as well. Now, I go into a lot more detail on how the news has been affecting anxiety around the coronavirus and how to deal with that in another video which will appear up here right now. So the second way to help you tame any anxiety around the coronavirus is to journal. So what you want to do is grab a big piece of paper or open a file on your computer and then write down everything that you're thinking, all those negative thoughts, all those anxieties, write them all down on a piece of paper. Once you've done that, separate the facts from the meaning. Now, to help you with this, facts are boring and facts are neutral. The meaning around them often has more embellishing words and has some emotion around it. So let me give you some examples here. So one fact is that pubs are now closed. So that's a fact. The meaning around that could be, this is so unfair, I can't go and have a drink with my mates anymore. That's meaning. Another fact is, gatherings are limited to 2 people. So the meaning around that could be, this is terrible, I'm really going to miss those barbecues with my friends. Another fact is, I need to stay indoors as much as possible. Meaning you could give to that is, staying indoors is going to make me feel really claustrophobic, I'm going to go mad, I don't think I can deal with this. Another fact could be, I've lost my job. Now that's not a very nice fact, but it's still a fact. Now the meaning you could give to that could be, I can't believe this is happening to me. I've lost everything. Or your meaning could be, I've lost my job. This is going to make life a little bit challenging for the next few months. However, we will get through it. And who knows, this might be a chance to try something different. So number 3 is to feel and accept current reality. So many people, when they experience anxiety, try to hide from that feeling. Now they might do that by drinking too much, comfort eating, They might do it by watching mindless TV, or they might at the moment do it by watching the news too often as a way of kind of hoping that everything's going to be okay. So instead of doing those things, which is just going to create more anxiety in the long run anyway, I encourage you to accept whatever you're feeling right now. So know that it's okay to feel sad right now. It's okay to feel anxious. It's okay to feel scared. It's okay to feel fearful. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to feel confused. Then write down what you are feeling, and also notice where the anxiety feelings are in your body. Maybe you're noticing tightness in the stomach or the chest area. Maybe you're noticing your heart rate is faster than normal. Maybe you're noticing tension in the neck and the shoulders area. So just notice where that is. Also really feel the feelings, feel the emotions, and feel the fear. Let those emotions wash over you. When you do that, they will go by their own accord. What most people do instead is they try and resist, they try and suppress the feelings, and what happens then is they come back. Also consider that you might be going through a grieving process right now. You know, a grieving process happens obviously with the loss of someone special, but people can also grieve things like loss of jobs as well. And at the moment we're all kind of grieving the loss of our freedoms that we were taking for granted. Now when you go through any kind of grieving process, there's always a time when you're going to resist it and often get quite angry about it as well. But as time goes by, you begin to gain acceptance instead. So what's really useful is to be able to gain that acceptance earlier. So see if you can just accept things the way they are. Just accept them now as the new normal, and that will help you release some of the negative emotions around this. So number 4 is to focus on what you can control. So anxiety comes from trying to control things that you can't control. And with the coronavirus, there is a lot that you cannot control right now. You cannot directly control how much the virus is going to spread. You cannot control the fact that schools are closing. You cannot control the fact that important business functions or social functions have been cancelled. And you can't control the fact that maybe your savings are being adversely affected by this current pandemic. However, you can control much more than you think. For example, by following to the letter all the important health advice that we have right now, and also by following and applying the other tips that I'll be covering in this video. So number 5 is to take action on something meaningful. When you're thinking and worrying about the coronavirus, that's just going to make your anxiety worse. The unconscious mind cannot process negatives, so when you think about the coronavirus, your mind has to kind of imagine it and think about it, and that creates more fear and anxiety. So the solution is to think about something else, anything else, and the more meaningful, the better. So think about maybe a meaningful activity you could do. Perhaps you could start volunteering. Perhaps you could help other people that are in a worse state than you are right now. Perhaps it's time to do that thing that you've been meaning to do for a while, maybe even for a few years. Maybe it's writing that book. Maybe it's starting an online business. Maybe it's learning a new skill or a new hobby. You could also work on your anxiety, work on your mental health, work on becoming more resilient in the future. So whatever it is, and the sky's the limit, the key thing is that when you think about it, you feel good, and as a result, you then take inspired action. So number 6 is to practice deep breathing. And this one I learned from Justine Ross, who's a psychologist. And for me, this is so simple. It almost seems too simple. What you do is 5 minutes, 3 times a day, you practice deep breathing. It's that simple. So you can set a timer on your phone to remind you when to do it and then for how long. But this is really effective for a number of reasons. So firstly, it helps you manage and reduce anxiety on both a physical and mental level. So it really slows down that response to stress. And the way it does this in a slightly more technical way is it slows down the sympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is basically what activates the fight or flight response. And that's kind of what you're experiencing when you're experiencing anxiety. And it's that fight or flight response that causes the physical symptoms of anxiety, the rapid heartbeat and the other tight sensations you might have in your body. Now, what the deep breathing does instead is it turns on the parasympathetic nervous system. This helps you restore balance, it helps you gain more of a sense of calm. It also slows down your heart rate, and this is often called the rest and digest state, because When we're relaxed and calm, that's when we can deal with resting, that's when we can sleep and relax, and that's when we digest food properly as well. So I encourage you to give this one a go. So 3 times a day, take 5 minutes out each and practice deep breathing. So number 7 is you're more resilient than you think you are. Now, as human beings, we experience something called negativity bias. And this is the tendency to notice negative experiences much more than positive experiences. And this is evolutionary. So many hundreds of years ago, when we all lived in the bush, we would have gone to a tree and maybe taken a berry off the tree and eaten it. And maybe that berry was poisonous in some way and made you feel very ill. So our mind is programmed to tell us not to eat that berry from that tree again. That is an example of negativity bias. And in reality now, this is often manifested by noticing negative news much more than positive news, and probably explains why most of the news is negative as well. Now, the key thing here is that most people overestimate how badly something is actually going to be. So most people are overestimating how badly the coronavirus pandemic is likely to be, but also most people underestimate their ability to deal with it. So most people underestimate what they can control and what they can do to influence it. And sometimes it takes a pandemic or a war to make people realize how much they can do. So let me give you a couple of examples. So here in Australia, online doctor consults were about 10 years in the future, so about 2030. As a result of the corona pandemic, it is now possible to see your doctor online. They've brought that forward 10 years. So the necessity to do that made everyone involved in that realize that they had much more ability to do that and come up with creative ways than they could have done in normal situations. In the Second World War, the technology advances were far greater than during peacetime because it was necessary to the survival of countries that happened. And also in Australia, there's economic stimulus packages happening right now to help protect people that have been financially affected by the coronavirus, which are unprecedented. They've never happened before, and in many cases they're untested economically as well. So when we have a situation like this, it really tests and helps us often come up with ideas and things that we never would have normally thought of. So in many cases, you have already stepped up. You've already proven to yourself that you can do much more than you think in this situation, maybe by just being able to grasp technology and the ability to work from home. That could be a good example. Or I'm sure there's something else you've already done which in the past would have seemed challenging in some way. So number 8 is to practice mindfulness. Anxiety comes from fear and worry about what could happen in the future. But in the reality, if you're watching this video right now, you're okay. So you're okay right now. So what mindfulness involves is becoming very present about what is happening right now. It's really, really easy to do. If you can, go for a walk outside and just notice everything that's happening around you. So notice the plants and the trees, notice the colours of flowers, notice the colour of the sky. Hopefully it's a nice blue sunny day when you do this. Notice the sound of your feet as you're walking down the road. Notice other people. Just be completely absorbed in what is happening in the present moment. You could, if it's raining, you could look through a window and do the same thing. Just notice everything you can see around you. Maybe you're cooking. Just give that your full attention and just notice everything you're doing with that. And you can practice mindfulness in any everyday situation. And it's a really good skill to learn anyway because it improves your concentration. But when you're focusing purely on what is happening around you, it gives your busy mind a break. Okay, and that will help you feel less anxious because in a way those anxious thoughts have less space in your mind because you're focusing on other things. I think that's another good benefit of mindfulness as well, is it gives your brain a chance to focus on something neutral, and that also helps reduce anxiety. So number 9 is the CBT countering technique. So CBT stands for cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's a very common approach used by psychologists and psychotherapists. And the idea with this is that it allows you to confront and question persistent thoughts and persistent beliefs as well. So let's take this persistent thought or belief: my family and loved ones will die from this virus. Okay, So what you do with this is you look at the facts and reality. So what's the reality around this? Well, the reality is that most people that get COVID-19 are going to recover. I think it's around about 98%. And also, there's quite a good chance that your family won't get the virus in the first place. So you can see how this works. You just take any kind of persistent negative thought and you question it and you look at the facts, and that can help you then change that thought and reduce that anxiety. So number 10, and the last one, is to practice self-compassion. So this is the time to be gentle on yourself. This is the time to be kind on yourself. So to give you an example of this, let's say that you've just gone out and you come home, and normally you would wash your hands as soon as you get in through the door. But maybe this time you forget and you realise 15 minutes later that you forgot to wash your hands as soon as you got in. Okay, well, you could beat yourself up about that. But instead, what I recommend you do is firstly be grateful and thank yourself that you actually noticed that you didn't do it, because you could have actually not noticed that at all. And so be grateful for that, and then you can just use that as a reminder that hopefully I'll remember next time. Okay, so although these things are really important, and if we do forget occasionally, be okay with that. Another part of this is really to just look out for that negative internal voice. So if it's very critical at the moment, then try and tame that in some way. And I've covered how to do this in another video called How to Tame Your Negative Internal Voice, which will appear up here right now. Now, practicing self-compassion might also involve setting less goals and having less things on your to-do list. It might involve taking more time out for yourself right now and doing some fun things. It might involve forgiving yourself and maybe forgiving others. And it also might involve expressing gratitude and being more grateful generally. So these were my 10 ways to help you reduce and maybe overcome any anxieties you have around the coronavirus right now. As always, I do encourage you to start putting these into action. This is something you can control, applying these techniques into your life. And also a reminder to download my coronavirus checklist. This will give you a number of things that you can do right now to help yourself stay well, both mentally, emotionally, and physically. To get the checklist, go to selfhelpforlife.com/coronavirus, or click the first link in the description below, or if you're listening on the podcast version, that will be the first link in the show notes. And besides the coronavirus checklist, you also get regular emails from me with tips, advice, positive news stories, and some humour to get you through this coronavirus crisis. So I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you found it useful, and I look forward to sharing more great content with you very soon. Bye for now.